All right, today we are talking about why you need to move out of your hometown as a creative. And it's just one of those things that I'm so adamant on because as soon as I moved, my whole life changed. Like the people that you're around, the new circumstances you find yourself in, the less familiar places, like it's all just part of kind of shoving you into a place of growth, right? The way I like to think of it, honestly, is like if you're learning how to swim and you just get thrown into the water. Moving to a new place forces you to put yourself in situations that you're probably going to face in life at some point anyways, but the sooner you can do them, the better off you're going to be. I am very lucky to have joined the military when I turned 18. So for anybody that has been watching me for a while or is new or whatever and doesn't know, I used to be in the military. As soon as I turned 18, basically, I enlisted into the Air Force, and I went to San Antonio, Texas, November of 2018, which is when I turned 18. It's when I graduated high school. And yeah, I mean, every year since then, basically, I've lived in a new place. And like I said, I'm very lucky to have been in the military because it kind of pushed me without me being able to have any say in it, right? So I grew up in Colorado, and then the military put me in Texas and then Alaska. And I feel like those are two vastly different places, not just climate and everything like that, but just culturally. It's so much more to do in Texas. There's like nothing to do in Alaska. So it kind of forced me to be in this situation where I have to figure out where I want to go, how I'm going to meet new people without knowing anybody. And that's honestly so similar to how the music industry is and how any other creative industry is. When you first get into it, if you don't get into it like already knowing some people, it's a whole weird game, right? Like you're trying to meet people, you're trying to add value to people's lives that you don't even know. Everybody tells you to network, meet people, but like, how do you do it, right? It's confusing. And for me, it was so much easier because I had already been in the military. I had already been kind of forced to be in these situations where I didn't know anybody. I didn't know anything. So I had to put myself out there and I had to start finding creative ways to start meeting people. And it just pushes you out of the comfort net of your own home, right? Like wherever you grow up, especially if you live there in like one main area until you're 18, like it's honestly pretty tough to be in a new space and not know anybody. So I started making music when I lived in Alaska, right? So I was still in the military. I was in Alaska for 2 years, working 16-hour shifts sometimes, doing a lot of 12s, 14s, plus all the other military commitments. And I grinded my way through the music industry, learning how to network, learning how to do all this stuff. And then it finally came time for me to get out after a few years of being in the military. And I was basically faced with two options. On one hand, I could go back to my hometown in Colorado where I grew up, where I know a bunch of people and have that like net of comfortability. Or on the other hand, I could just take a risk and go somewhere new and just see what happens. And me being the risk taker that I am, and also just not really wanting to be back in my hometown because I already experienced that, and seeing Alaska and Texas changed my perspective on life, showing me how many different places there are. So I decided to take the risk. I had a couple friends that I moved with in North Carolina, people that I had met over the internet with music, which is pretty crazy. But as people that I worked with a little bit on music, we had similar interests. I was the producer, they were artists and writers and instrumentalists and everything. So I took the risk, didn't know these people, but they're like, hey, if you pay us, I don't remember what it was, like $400 or $500 a month, we'll give you a room. I was like, bet. It's a room in a house of 5 dudes. We're all making music. And honestly, it was like the perfect introduction to getting into the creative space. And it was really cool. We lived there for a year and it was sick. I met a bunch of people. I started getting invested into the local music scene, started meeting a bunch of people from around the area that were making music, which was cool because I don't really know many people in my hometown that would have done that anyways. And it was just a really cool experience. I like being the new guy. It puts me in a room of being able to learn from everybody, it's awesome. And then after that, we had kind of parted ways, done our own thing in the music industry. It's, relationships are for the most part still good, but we just had two different directions that we wanted to go. And at that point, there was somebody that I was seeing, and we decided to move up to Canada. And that was cool. I loved Canada. It was a totally different experience for me. Literally moving countries like that's crazy. That was a big risk to take. But that just reinforced the thought even more of like, being away from my hometown gave me so many opportunities, and it gave me so many chances to introduce myself, so many chances to be the new guy that doesn't know anything, right? And that's really what it is. Like, I'm addicted to learning. I love putting myself into new spaces, meeting new people. I just think it's one of the best things you could possibly do for yourself. And because of that, I'm much more extroverted. I used to be such an introvert. I am much better now at finding places to work with and meeting people and all that. Like, I just moved here to Gainesville maybe a month, 2 months-ish ago, and I'm already, tapped in with the community. I've talked to a lot of business owners here. I'm meeting a bunch of people. But what I noticed is my girlfriend, Taylor, who I moved here with, she is not fully acclimated yet because she's lived in one place all the way up until now. She's in her early 20s now, and she's only lived in one small town ever. So it's like a brand new game for her, trying to figure out how can she get more clients. She's a hairstylist, super fire, by the way. I love her so much. She's so talented. It started to make me think about, my first time moving out and what that was kind of like for me trying to network. But it's even more pressure on her because this is her job. She's a hairstylist. She needs clients to do good at that. So it just brought up this thought to me, like, maybe I should talk a little bit more about why people should move out of their hometown. Because for me, it's been one of the biggest blessings in my entire life. Like, I probably would not be anywhere near where I am today without having done that. So with that being said, it's a beautiful day outside. We are going to go into the park and record the rest of this video there. Let's get it. All right, so I just found this beautiful area here to record in. It's nice and quiet, nice and warm. It's like high 70s right now. You hear the birds chirping and stuff. It's very serene. I love it. And this is not something that you would find in Colorado. I mean, maybe, but not at this time of the year. It's February. But yeah, so you got some of my backstory. I'll probably do another video at some point that's like how I got from being in the military to being a full-time music producer slash videographer slash whatever it is I do now. If you're interested in that video, feel free to leave a comment and let me know. So now that we got that out of the way, I want to talk a little bit more about my advice for you for moving out, because it's not really just as easy as, move out. I mean, I like to say it is because, that just kind of makes you feel better about it. But the reality of it is that it's pretty hard, especially if you don't have like a stable job or you don't have money saved up or anything like that. What's important to know is that a lot of people don't make a change in their lives until a situation is so bad that they feel like they have to make a change. Like, that's when most people are actually going to make a change. And what I mean by that is, like, if you kind of have a comfortable job, you're doing pretty good where you're at, and you don't really have a reason to move other than maybe it would help you pursue your creative career, a lot of people are just going to opt to not make the change, right? Because they're comfortable. But say they just got laid off and there's like some going on at home and they're going through all this stuff, maybe moving is going to be their solution because they finally realize, you know what, fuck it, like, enough crazy shit has been happening, so I'm just going to make the change and see how it goes. And that's basically what I did. I mean, my situation was not bad by any means at home. I had gotten into like the slightest amount of college debt. It was like a few $1,000s, and it was like the end of the world for me. So I was like, oh my God, I'm going to join the military so I can pay off this debt. Now my recruiter told me that they would pay it off, and it turns out they don't. So don't fall for that like I did. But either way, I'm very glad I joined. My situation was quote unquote bad enough. Like, in my own head, it was bad enough that I wanted to make a change, right? So I made the change, I moved, and instantly essentially my life just exponentially developed in the way that I wanted it to. And it was tough while I was in the military, but like once I was out, everything just became so much more clear. It was so much easier to pursue the things that I wanted to pursue. But yeah, so most people don't make the change unless something bad enough is happening in their situation. So with that in mind, think about realistically where you are and think about how much different your life would actually have to be. Like realistic steps, not just overthinking everything, but like write down a list if you need to of the things that will be easier and the things that will be harder if you move. And a lot of times the thing that's harder is going to be you don't know anybody, you don't have a job, you don't have security, maybe you don't have a place that you would be able to live. It sounds crazy, but I mean, just get a roommate. If you get a roommate, it makes it a little bit easier. That's what I did basically up until now. Like when I moved into this apartment a couple months ago, it was the first time that I've ever lived on my own. I mean, it's with my girlfriend Taylor, but it's crazy how easy it can be when you have a roommate or you have a couple roommates. And sometimes that will mean you move and you've got 3 roommates, or like me who had 4 other roommates, which is a little bit crazy. You know, I'm not saying you have to do that, but if it's the option that you have to be able to get you out of your hometown and get you in a new environment, it might be the way to go. There's all sorts of ways that you can handle the job aspect of it. It's definitely tougher if you got like a big family or you have like a lot of overhead that you're paying for at the moment or whatever. But for a lot of people, you can find some pretty easy work just about anywhere, whether it's some kind of commercial job where, you know, you're working at a grocery store or a restaurant or something like that, or DoorDash or whatever. But the thing is, like, you just have to do something, right? Let's do some analysis here. On one hand, let's say you've already got a good job, right? You've got a decent paying job. You're making about, let's call it like 1.5 times to 2 times what you would be making if you moved and got something random. For most people, they're spending so much that they kind of like spend within their means rather than below their means like they're supposed to. And realistically, like if you're not actually saving that much where you are, moving to a new place is going to kind of have you in the same position, right? Like you're still not going to be saving that much money, but if it's, you know, save $100 a month in your hometown or save no money in the place that you're going to, it might honestly be worth it just to take the risk and go somewhere new, because that's going to open up so many more opportunities for you long term. And that's just kind of how you have to think of it. The more time that you spend in your hometown, the more time that you spend working the same job, saving the same amount of money, the more time you spend doing all that, the less time that you're going to have to pursue your creative career, and the less time that you're going to have to like actually lock in somewhere else. And it's a tough balance, but what you have to remember is that there's never going to be the perfect time. Like there's realistically not going to be a time that's like perfect to move or make a big life change. Like sometimes you just have to do it. You just have to go for it. And that's going to be the only way that it actually happens. So it's up to you. If you're watching this video, you're probably looking for a sign to move. You're probably looking for a reason to be out of your hometown. And if you're not, you probably should be if you want to pursue a creative career. Because for me and many others, it's been one of the greatest decisions ever made by so many people. Like it's not just a me thing. This is not me just talking out of my ass. Like the amount of posts that I've seen people make about this, the amount of successful people that have mentioned it, the amount of actors, business owners, you name it. Moving out of your hometown is like one of the greatest things you could do with your life. So that being said, it's up to you. You make the choice. It comes with a lot of different things, right? It's a little bit riskier, but realistically, like, how bad is the risk going to be? And it really just comes down to how bad you want it as a creative. Like, if it's not really your biggest goal to be a full-time creative, you don't want to be a full-time music producer, videographer, whatever it is that you do, then don't. Nobody's forcing you to. You can leave those things as a hobby. But if you take it seriously, and if you want to seriously level yourself up in one of the most organic and best ways possible, I highly recommend moving. But anyways, I feel like I've reached my point. If you've got any questions, feel free to let me know in the comments. If you made it to this point in the video, I seriously, sincerely appreciate you so much. And yeah, it means a ton to me that you sit here and listen to me yap. If you are interested in having more one-on-one conversations and are interested in building out your brand a little bit, getting some help from me, one-on-one guidance, feel free to hit me up on Instagram. I'll go ahead and link it in the description. And also, if you're a musician and you want to make music in a mansion with me, I do mansion events every 3 months called Underground Retreats. It's super cool. And I will link a video at the end of this so you could check it out if you want to. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you next time.